If you are looking to reignite your spiritual practice, but you are not yet interested in the classic meditation, and you definitely want to do it outside of any religious settings, what can you do? If you truly crave that substance that comes from your connection with your inner voice, with your soul, what are the possibilities out there for you? Well, I have my two favorites, and those are reading spiritual books and being in nature. And in this podcast, I want to share with you how you can connect with nature in order to make this a spiritual practice. I am going to share with you three of my favorite authors that helped me to connect with nature in a little bit different way. And I'm going to throw in some big words like timelessness. Thank you for tuning in. This topic is so exciting for me. When your life is busy, when you have a lot of things to do, this is probably the worst possible thing for your connection with your soul if you do not take time to reconnect with yourself. I remember from the past when I was very busy, and for my work in sales, I had to be on top of what is going on. It was so draining for me. I was just dreaming about running away to the mountains and staying there. Spiritual practice is something that you create for yourself that is outside of that drama. It's a place to which you can come back to, find peace, and also reconnect with who you are, reconnect with your inner voice. What are the elements that make it a spiritual practice? Thousands of people are going every day to the mountains, and they are using it just as an exercise. To make it a spiritual practice, there are three things that need to take place. Number one, you have to learn how to be present. It is about being here and now. Obviously, your body is always here and now, but our minds very rarely are here and now. Usually, we go to the past or to the future. Even if you go to the past to reflect on happy memories, not necessarily just to worry or obsess about the past. And even if you go to the future in your mind to dream and plan something, then you are not here and now. Our minds will remind us about something that we should worry about or think about. Wherever you are, there will be sounds, there will be things that you will see. And it's the nature of our mind that it will try to evaluate things, judge things if they are safe or not safe, good or bad, pretty, ugly, and so on. So notice that these are just thoughts. After some time, you will create this inner observer, a faculty of mind that can observe itself. This is what we have as humans, and that's beautiful. But when we are not mindful, we believe that every thought is important, that every thought is valid. And the truth is, when you develop this quality of that inner observer, inner witness, you can notice that some of the thoughts are just manufactured sentences in your brain that you can just let go. You can let them go and return to peace, return to here and now. The second element that makes it a spiritual practice is silence. When you are in nature, it's best that you go alone, and it's best when you go without a phone. Here you go. Right now, I'm inviting you to put yourself in some dangerous situation. I believe that cell phones save lives, and it's good to have one. But if you choose to have a cell phone with you, just don't look at it all the time. Preferably, don't take any pictures, but rather take mental screenshots of what you see. When you take a picture with your phone, you are in technology that takes you away from your soul. So you are going to nature alone, you are practicing silence, no other people, no music, no podcasts. If you are hiking for the purpose of reconnecting with your soul, you want to hear your voice, not somebody else's voice. And the third element is your devotion to this practice, simply making it a practice, a regular practice. You are making it a ritual, and the fact that you are repeating the same practice creates a feeling that you can depend on this practice. This is your sacred space that you are creating for yourself. And a part of you will start craving that space, that time you create for yourself. So the three elements are presence, here and now, silence, and practice you are devoting yourself to. Different teachers will tell us what to do. There are countless of spiritual practices. But what will come from this? What will transpire from this? What you will get out of this will be so unique to you that it would be wrong for anyone to tell you what you can expect. Yes, you will hear your inner voice in some way. Yes, you will reconnect with your truth in some way. You will have your little awakenings or bigger awakenings. You will have your inspiration come to you, great ideas. You will know yourself more. But what exactly it's going to be, it's for you to keep. The reason why it's so hard to describe the inner spiritual experiences is probably because it is so unique to us. And you know what? Let's keep it this way. It's okay that it's hard to describe it. This way, we can keep it as a secret, we can keep it sacred. So when you go to nature and you, just like in meditation, right? You incorporate those three elements, presence, silence, and you make it a ritual, you can experience timelessness. Timelessness is something that sounds like eternity. You and I don't have eternity to practice meditation or to have a spiritual practice because we have our lives to live. And yet there is this concept of a vertical time, in addition to the horizontal time that we all know, that can be stretched if we suffer and it gets shorter when we experience fun. There is also vertical time, and we experience it as moments of timelessness. Even if you just have 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, you will experience timelessness probably many times during that time if you keep coming back to that present moment. And let's say you drop into timelessness, and a moment later you are going to fall out of timelessness. This is the best example of how we cannot seek perfection in our spiritual practice, because how do you experience timelessness in a good way, or how do you do it in a bad way? There is no good and bad. You simply feel it. And after a moment, something will remind you that you have a physical body, that you are a human in a physical body. The purpose is not to be good at it. The purpose is to do it. Gosh, I need to make a mental note to myself to remember it in every area of my life. There is something about silence that I wanted to add from one of my favorite authors who write about nature, Bill Plotkin, and this is from the book Soulcraft. Our minds are in constant motion. The endless cognitive activity keeps us well rehearsed in our current worldview and lifestyle. In order to approach the deeper truths of soul, we must quiet the inner chatter. Meditation practice is one way. Another path to inner peace is the discipline of sacred speech and silence. Sacred speech is conversation that deepens. It deepens relationship and enhances the fullness of our presence wherever we are, whoever we are with. An effective strategy for tuning our awareness to the frequency of soul is to minimize everyday conversation that separates us from here and now and from what is truly meaningful. A regular diet of sacred speech and silence nourishes the soul and opens the door to soul encounter. Gradually, our everyday consciousness shifts. A diet of sacred speech. I made a video a few years ago about a judgment diet and an opinion diet. It's a hard one, but it's really worth it. I love the concept that nature reflects our inner nature. When you start walking slowly, taking mental shots, not photo shots, but mental shots of what you see, you may notice connection between your moods, your feelings, what you are going through, and what is reflected in nature. I am observing stones, and it seems like every stone has a story to tell. All the cracks in the stone and the nuances of color. Stones have history, and we can communicate with them. And I like the concept of a prayer stone. You are on your favorite path in nature because you are observing what is happening around you. You notice things. And there might be a stone or a tree that you will develop connection with. And that stone may become your prayer stone. You stop there and you come back to yourself. There is another fragment I want to read to you from Soulcraft, crossing into the mysteries of nature and psyche. So Bill Plotkin writes, you can count on wild nature to reflect your soul, because soul is your most wild and natural dimension. Your ego, on the other hand, is not born directly from nature, but rather from the matrix of culture, language, family. Soul initiation is often described as a death and a second birth. Like entering a cocoon, your first ego dies, and later a soul-rooted ego is birthed, not from culture this time, but from the womb of nature. Wild nature contains the terrestrial patterns of belonging. Okay, so if you, for example, are depressed, being in nature would be one of the remedies, because you cannot feel lonely in nature. If your depression comes, for example, from feeling lonely, you cannot feel lonely in nature because, as Bill writes, wild nature contains all the terrestrial patterns of belonging. Every niche of the world is filled with a life form that perfectly fits there because it was born to do just that. The wilder the environment, the more complex and diverse it is, and the more likely it contains patterns of belonging that resonate with your destiny. No matter who you are, no matter what possibilities you contain, there are forms and forces in wild nature that will reflect the nuances of your soul. So he talks about wild nature. But if you don't have time to go to the wilderness, to the true wilderness, if you go to the city park, whatever you find there is also an element of wild nature. Just look for it, connect to that element. You don't have to go on a week-long vision quest. Your vision quest could be just a few hours. Okay, so another of my favorite authors is Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and she talked about a mountain. It appears in different metaphors and different legends. And it's usually a symbol for some sort of achievement. Our inner landscape is reflected in the external landscape and vice versa. We see outside what we go through inside, but we also open up to what we see, and that sinks in. It feels good to discover it on your own. Climbing a mountain, it's a good exercise when we need to work through something. It's also a frequent symbol in mythology. Clarissa Pinkola Estes wrote that when we climb a mountain, we find ways to transform the negative into positive. The veils lift, allowing us to have deeper understanding of ourselves in the world. Estes says that the mountain represents the levels of mastery. The lower level represents the urge towards consciousness. The middle part of the mountain is a test of the knowledge gained on the lower levels. And the higher path is an intensified learning. The peak represents confrontation with the ultimate wisdom. If you climb a mountain in solitude, you might remember that at different elevations, something else is going on in your mind. Martha Beck is another author who helped me to relate differently to nature and be in a different way with nature. She wrote Finding Your Way in the Wild New World. I recommended the audiobook because it was so good. I laughed and I cried my way through that book. Martha helped me to stay open and present to the energies, the plants, the rock formations in nature. This is how I started finding pleasure in hiking. Hiking was no longer a workout. It was relating to the stones and plants, the path, the dead trees that are still a vital part of the landscape. It was relating to the sky, the birds, and especially when I was in nature in this majestic place by Thunder Mountain in Sedona. So you can get on a path in nature and just set an intention that you want to receive answers to some of your questions and then just let it go. When you explore nature in your area, you may notice that you respond well to certain places. So, what is your place? What is the place that you keep coming back to or that calls you back? For me, this is my Thunder Mountain in Sedona. I always go back to that trail, and when I don't, something is missing. A mountain as a symbol have lived with me within my soul for a long time. I remember it started probably about 25, 28 years ago when I had this idea of a traveling mountain. And there is a specific way this mountain looks. And in the same way, we also have our elements. What is the element in which you feel the best? What is the weather condition that makes you feel more alive? I feel the best when there's thunder and lightning and the ground is shaking and also a lot of wind. Ooh, this makes me feel so alive. The Thunder Mountain helped me to let go of judgment twice. Once it was judgment about me, and second, it was judgment about other people. I remember I found this one little nook at the bottom of the trail where I wanted to just sit down with my blanket and meditate. But what I found instead was a campfire with broken glass. So instead of judging the people who did that, I simply gathered all the glass and took it with me to throw in a trash can where it belonged. So I released the judgment of the people. I changed my judgment into compassion. So once you are in nature and you practice being here and now, so you can experience timelessness, if you go there in silence and you keep letting go of the thoughts and judgments from your mind, and when you make it a practice, you will experience bliss and awe because there is no way not to experience awe when you are in nature. And yet, you have the capacity to experience even more of that. So, what do you think about reigniting your spiritual practice by connecting with nature? Do you have experiences like this? Is there something that you would like to share with other people? And if you share, it's not for you to let go of the sacred experiences that are best when you keep them to yourself, but maybe there is something beautiful that you would love to share just to show what is possible. If yes, you can comment underneath this YouTube video or on my Instagram account, Positively Rebellious Coaching. Thank you very much. And if you enjoyed this podcast, I would appreciate if you could rate it in the app where you listen. Thank you for being here. Until next time.